Not in this discussion, anyway. But you basically say science has a problem.
Oh yeah.
With the fact that it can't really appreciate that there's there's narrative and meaning, and it doesn't embody that. Mm-hmm. But what about the science of psychology? I mean, you're a psychologist.
Well, it's a weird hybrid. It's a weird hybrid, and
isn't that the whole purpose of psychology, is to understand?
Well, it's got two purposes. Psychology is a weird hybrid because it's half medicine and half research. You know, it's truly a hybrid because the clinicians, they're all these weird characters like Freud and Rogers and the existential psychologists and Jung. And then there's the straight research psychologists, and they're more like the cognitive behaviorists on the let's say, on the clinical front. Yeah. And so it's facing both ways, and in principle could bring those things together. But you see, the scientific, this is a terrible problem because one of the things that the scientific perspective has done is made things look quite bleak existentially. Now, I know there's wonderment in scientific investigation. I understand that. But it's strange because science attempts to push subjective meaning out of the way, right? I mean, as part of its process.
Sure.
And it should do that. But
it should.
But there's an existential problem there that leaves us adrift. And look, one of the things I concluded from reading Milton's Paradise Lost.
You see, one thing is I can live with doubt and uncertainty and not knowing. I think it's much more interesting to live not knowing than to have answers which might be wrong. I have approximate answers and possible beliefs and different degrees of certainty about different things, but I'm not absolutely sure of anything. And then many things I don't know anything about, such as whether it means anything to ask, why we're here, and what the question might mean. I might think about it a little bit. If I can't figure it out, then I go to something else. But I don't have to know an answer. I don't feel frightened by not knowing things, by being lost in the mysterious universe without having any purpose, which is the way it really is, as far as I can tell, possibly. It doesn't frighten me.
Here? I said, what, with those jerks? Nah. Can I bring my friends over to meet you? That's people like him with similar values. Then you go to work in their terms, not your terms. Real psychology has to be related to the real world, not theory, not lab experiments in schools where you're not in touch with people, where you don't get the feel of people, where you don't get the sense of their identification with the world around them. I have changed many of those kids, and I brought a gun in for them to look at and said, I made this gun. Wow, they said. I sure would like to be able to make a gun like that. I said, well, I can help you do it. You can? Well, what do I have to do? I have to learn how to draw a front view of a gun, a side view of a gun. I know I'm going fast and over a lot of drawings. You have to make 3 views to the gun so it can be made. He said, yeah, I'm going to learn to do that. So I set him up on a drafting table, and I took him from guns to water skis to other things. Today, a lot of them are engineering draftsmen. Because they told me that the kids, they only had an IQ of 24 or something. You can't get to them. Well, I said to one of these kids with an IQ of 24, suppose you wanted to rob that jewelry store across the way. How would you go about it? Any way at all. Well, I said, I'd throw a bag of fecal matter in there, and the guy gets mad at my friend, and he runs over, and I clean off the counter. That's where they live. I suppose you wanted to rob the 3rd story. No ladders, no ropes, no weights. How would you get up to the 3rd story? Well, after several days, one of the youngsters came up with a piece of wood. He didn't even know what a wedge was. And you see that hunk of wood? I can stick in the bricks and it gets tight no matter how far the bricks are, see, from one another. And I can climb up the god. He didn't use that language. He used much stronger language. I climb up the building and take whatever I want to take. That's how I do it. Well, how do you give people an IQ test that come from a different environment? How do you know what they sense?
Arkansas, I know because I used to live there.
How dare you correct my pronunciation? Come up here this instant, you little upstart. I'll show you who's teaching this class.
think that the formalist who tries to structure the nature of intelligence, the nature of creativity, without being creative, can do it? Well, in order to teach children how to become creative, I make a Martian out of rubber with eyes on tentacles and a pointed rear end. And they look at it and they say, nah. And I say to them, what good are 3 eyes or 4 eyes on tentacles? Eventually, we're going to look at the back, the front, the side, the top at the same time. And what if the guy had 6 arms? Well, he can shave, read a book, eat a donut, and drink coffee. Instead of, as we're brought up. If you met a Martian, they had an opening on the ear. So, what's that? Notice the attitude? What is that? Well, if we eat anything that's bad for us, it's ejected right away. Not in your system. It goes through your whole system. So you're taught in medical school.
The Venus Project is a non-profit organization that recognizes the important connection between global resource mismanagement and problems such as war, climate change, poverty, and hunger. In the broader context, these are all detrimental results of a current socio-economic operating system. In response to these challenges, our organization presents solutions through the holistic application of science and technology, a systems approach, and living within the carrying capacity of Earth's resources. If applied wise under the current constraints of energy and material sources, it could hold the potential to make far-reaching positive impacts. However, while technology may succeed in gradually alleviating some of these problems, they cannot be resolved by simply addressing symptoms, as we do now, because they are byproducts of much larger problem. Another major issue is that business interests currently require short-term planning and time returns on investments. For these reasons, our proposals include an alternative economic model which overcomes these artificial barriers to planetary well-being. We understand that what can be achieved is proportionate to energy at hand and the intelligence management of its application. Our methodologies are designed to realize the full potential of science and technology to achieve social betterment for all living systems. We advocate new ways of thinking and living to enable human beings technology, and nature to progress sustainably.